Today we delve into Neil Burger's 2006 movie The Illusionist, where you have to wait until the 23-minute mark to hear about the actual movie. The rating will be like no one you've heard before, and we talk about the future of the video version of our show. We are the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast. Today is all about The Illusionist.
Starring
Edward Norton, Aaron Johnson, Paul Giamatti, Jessica Biel, Eleanor Tomlinson, Rufus Sewell, and Eddie Marsan, and Jake Wood.
Return of Eddie Marsan again. I love Eddie Marsan now.
He's got a good face, doesn't he?
He does. Good old Bladesy.
Mm-hmm.
He was in something else I saw recently, and I'm racking my brains to try and remember it, but it was a trailer for something recently.
No. It was Edgar Wright.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right. World's End. Me and Anouk recently watched that the other week. You know, when you order food in, and you're just like, you know what, I want a movie that I enjoy, just in the background originally, but then you get enveloped in it. That's kind of what The World's End is to me. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that someday. I kind of wanted to do that for a 2000 special, but we've gone past that now.
It's very good. It's got the Edgar Wright editing and fast-paced, witty comebacks, all of that.
While we're on the topic of editing, congratulations to the editing team of Baby Driver for picking up the BAFTA for Best Editing.
Yes!
Well done, guys.
Yeah.
It was very well deserved.
Very well
Very
done.
well deserved.
Really, really well deserved.
And the road to the Oscars, I believe.
That's very true. Yeah. We
Mm.
should probably get on that road, get in the car. We've stopped for gas and just stayed at the convenience store, just staring at the offers in the shop.
That's right. We've been on a break. It's been transparent to you because we had some past stuff to bring to you every week. But yeah, we're still on Magic Month.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
So The Illusionist, this kind of we talked in the Prestige episode about feuds, but we didn't. There are also feuds in movies. I'm pretty sure you remember that Armageddon and Deep Impact were released at the same period.
Mm.
Those two, The Prestige and The Illusionist, were released around the same period.
Seriously?
Yes.
Because I was about to say this is the Prestige wannabe.
Well,
Wannabe.
Just like, how... I think this is to do with age, though. I think Prestige has aged very well because of what Christopher Nolan's went on to do. We're talking about Dunkirk, the Batman series, Interstellar, all these sort of films. He's went on to have other things, meaning his earlier films age because he's a well-known director. Like, they retain their gravitas. I don't actually know anything the director of this has done since. I'm sure Yann will, because Yann always knows. But maybe once I know that'll help this thing of the film bring it up a level. But at the moment, that's what I kind of mean by wannabe. Not in like the film is trying to be the Prestige. It's absolutely not. It's its own thing, which I really think is a really good idea. But it has that sort of feel to me of going, I could be the Prestige.
well,
Really?
A wee bit.
I totally disagree.
Okay.
I think it's completely different, a film. Like, it's about love. It's about magic. But in like a completely different way. Like, it's about love and magic, and also that magic shouldn't be explained.
Yeah, you were saying this when we watched it at the end of this film. You were talking about the pursuit of knowing how something is done is not always the reward you want it to be.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, when people are like, how did you do it? I don't know. It just kind of ruins the whole, aesthetic.
Maddie actually preferred this one over the...
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because, it's... Yeah, I don't really know why, but yeah, it definitely has something... Neil Burger did this one.
Okay.
And he also did I think that's the very first... Yeah, Divergent. He did Divergent, Neil Burger, recently. Mm-hmm. And Limitless, which was nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, Limitless was nice.
Okay.
Also Edward Norton?
No, it's Bradley Cooper.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, it's a good film. I like Limitless.
Oh yeah, by the way, talking about, just 1 second, going to tangents there, talking about Maddie. So I actually went to see him.
Yes, Richard.
To see his show in London, and there was a funny So I went to see him, and we had lunch and stuff. And going like 2 hours before the showtime came, I was explaining to him stuff about the podcast and everything, and I was giving him the name, and it was it's called The Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard. And there's just this random guy that I didn't see coming on the right that I just heard this. Well, it would have been better to have called it like The Good, the Bad, and the Just Awfully Average. It's like, what the... Hello? Where are you coming from?
The Good, the Bad, and the Just Awfully Average.
That's a bit of a mouthful, though, I think. I don't know. I don't think that slips off the tongue as good as... Awfully
average.
Awfully average.
I think awfully average... you know how we also had Francis on. We just recently watched his thing he shot at ACS, his trailer, where he talks about the is it cantness? No, what's the way your voiced pattern is? Cadence. Sorry, the way your cadence is when you say certain words. When you say the good, the bad, and the just plain standard, just is an upward, so it gives it energy. The good, the bad, and the just awfully average. The good, the bad, and the just awfully average. Like it's a dip, which is a different thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what? It's a very British title, the awfully average. But I think being just plain standard is a bigger insult, so let's keep it at that. We're not going to rebrand after 30 episodes, but thank you, person on the street, for
No, but it was funny because it's the venue is the kind of what we have in Edinburgh, the underbelly, kind of. It's the vaults in London, so they have this massive art festival for a few weeks, and then it just returns back to being kind of dormant. And there were like graffiti everywhere, and so the guy looked like a hobo, but it was just like, oh, I didn't see you coming there. Hello. And
how funny.
Okay.
I don't know. I think because it's an alliteration as well, it just sounds a little bit odd and probably quite hard to say.
But it's a very long title, isn't it? Awfully average is longer than just plain. No, it's not. That's a lie.
And it's an alliteration of two vowels, which I think makes it a little bit...
It's out of sync with the rest of the title.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe when we were at drama school, standard was like the word that we used for films, but also just someone's performance. So I think maybe that's why that we spoke of using standard as a word to use.
I think average is very difficult to describe as well. I mean, if something is just plain standard, you can pick it apart and go, this is why. When something is average is an amalgamation of everything. It's a sum up. I think standard allows you to go into something.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's my title. I'm not giving it away.
No,
I didn't watch The Beguiled and come up with a name just to change it because some guy in the vaults told me to do it. No, that's not happening. Not sorry.
Yeah, it's a long name for the marketing purposes, but yeah, it's.
We technically pulled a George Lucas to save on printing.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yes.
So in the Paul episode, he talked about. I mean, this one feels a bit more, you can see the Robert Houdin kind of theater setting more, because at least two of the illusions he was famous for were on display, including one Paul talked about. Robert Houdin, when he was in Algeria, was able to stop a rebellion from religious lords who were pretending to have powers with a light and heavy chest. If you remember from the Paul episode. And
there's one of them in the play.
Yes. Oh, there is?
The thing you're seeing tonight, yeah, and there's one of them in it.
Thank you for the spoilers again, Greg. Mm-hmm. No, I went to Blackpool, and Izzy Simpson, the 9-year-old who is on British Got Talent, she has one in her show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like card box, card box.
9 years old, my God. That's talent.
Start young, man.
Well, the funny thing is, because her grandfather, who's called Russ Sivens, has been trying to put on shows on AGT for years. He has And that's part because of him that magic now is big on AGT, because before, I think like 4 or 5 years ago, before, magic was just not a thing on those AGT, BGT, I think so. He made it that on BGT now we have magic, and that's Izzy Simpson, his granddaughter, which clearly has talent. He was out of the game for a while because he didn't really manage to get a big winner or big break into the show. And Izzy, she mastered that show in 2 weeks, and she clearly knows, because he did the lecture for an hour after the day after the gala where she performed for us, and he was explaining all that and stuff. And she has the kind of thing that you're supposedly not, that you can't teach, even though it's that specific stuff that was taught to me 2 years ago at ACS. The fact that when you're on stage and you're doing something nice, everyone is laughing, or before you arrive, they have the actual conscience to start talking and introduce your act once the applause start fading, instead of just cutting off the laughs on. She has that kind of sense at 9 years old, so that's quite nice.
A control of stagecraft at 9-year-old, that's very good. That's very good. Wish I had that at 9. What was I doing at 9 years old?
It's tough as well. Stagecraft is like something that looks easy, but is really difficult to master, because obviously when you're on stage, you can't see yourself. So you'd have to be very good at being objective and harsh on yourself to know what's good on stage. It's difficult.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so Robert Houdin created illusion, light and heavy chest, and we see a good example of that in this movie, the orange tree illusion, with the little handkerchief and the oranges. And
yeah.
So that was nice to actually see that on a big film.
And the sword.
Yeah, well, the sword is the equivalent, because there is no chest, there is just the sword. So that's the equivalent of the light and heavy chest, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They did it with a sword instead of a chest there, but yeah.
Yeah. But the whole light heavy thing is still there. Yeah. And it's quite an interesting thing to say, like, if you can lift it, you obviously have some sort of royal blood and,
Ego inflating magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why it was so interesting, because the prince is obviously a total egomaniac. And so him nearly not being able to pick it up was like kind of the turning point of the whole film. It's like immediately afterwards, he's like, shut him down. Don't like that man.
Also Paul talked about a while ago about magic is one of the only communities where you would have a billionaire sharing a drink with a minimum wage person. We had in France one of the major producers of movies called Christian Fischner, fascinated by the history, and especially Robert Houdin, this guy. He did like what is now the reference biography. It's like huge white volumes, 3 volumes. Like it's been out of print for years, and you can't get them for less than £1,000.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's 2 volumes with the actual bio, then volume 3 with the illusions, and 4 with the memorabilia reprinted.
Jesus.
Wow.
That's pretty something, like.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was. He also made his own show. He won the championships of magic in '76, I think. And he would be like, you would just. When you want to talk to a big businessman, you have to go through all the secretaries and stuff.
Yeah.
You would just tell his secretary that you're a magic fan or whatever, and you just have him right away. And so it was quite.
I'm here to talk about magic. I'll cancel my 4 o'clock. Hold on my calls.
Very nice.
Show me a trick.
Yeah, he's no longer with us, but that was quite cool.
That's probably hence why the biographies now will get even more expensive, because there's now an added print to the guy who's no longer with us.
Posthumous.
Yeah.
And it's very, because there's been precedent in biographies, but not that, even autobiographies, but not that, but this is very exhaustive, like it's very thick stuff.
The only one I've seen like that is Michael Palin's diaries about the Python years. My dad got that for his birthday. I think he's 50th way back. And it's a huge book, and it only covers like the Python years, which is about 60 to 74. So, there's other aspects to his life. I mean, he went on to do like travel programs and all other sorts of things. So that probably doesn't even include the movies like Life of Brian and stuff like that. It probably only includes like the TV series. But it's a hell of a book. And Keith Moon's autobiography as well is a big one. Because that guy did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
To get back to feuds, we talked about with Francis, but it was off air afterwards. You were wondering during his episode about real life feuds. We didn't talk that much about that in the episode, but there's obviously one that between Houdini and Conan Doyle. I think it was 20 or 25 years ago. I was really intensely into spiritualism. Spiritism, like like seances and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, spiritualism. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Arthur Conan Doyle was very heavy into the believing in that, and he faced Houdini, who was the high debunker of that kind of stuff, which today would be what James Randi is doing. He is this $1 million challenge that if you could prove that you have psychic powers or any kind of paranormal abilities, and he's been feuding for a while with Uri Geller.
Oh, I see.
Yes, because now I think it's been like 5 years or so. Uri Geller is no longer selling himself as having spoon bending powers, but more as a mystifier. And he still doesn't identify himself as a magician, but he did conferences and lectures at the FISM 2015, which is the World Championship of Magic, and he's quite popular. He's more into the positive vibes and kind of stuff now, more than. But in his lecture, he explains it got a bit out of hand, really, because he started to pretend to bend spoons on the television at some point, and he asked, "Okay, call us if you put your spoons on the telly, and they should bend, and call us when they bend and stuff." And a ton of people actually called, and that started the whole thing.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah,
I'm bending spoons, and I'm going to call Uri Geller.
Yeah, at one point he had like those, you would, in magazines he had a page with an orange dot on it, and it would be like, if you touch that dot, you would be impregnated by Uri Geller. And some women called.
Oh my God.
I'm having your child. Can you give me some of that money, that bending spoon money, please?
Oh my God. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I don't think I've ever heard anything so crazy.
There are some crazy stuff. It's people like just wow, and it's wow.
Eddie Marsan was the compeer, the MC in this, actually. Yeah. That's a big. The very first magic convention I went to in my hometown, Aix-en-Provence, 2012. I didn't realize, because you've got the standard conventions with a dealer hall, just like Blackpool. We'll get into that later because I went this year. So you've got stuff for magicians, lectures, but I didn't realize that galas are also open to the public, which makes sense, obviously. And so I didn't bring my family in 2012 to actually see the shows, which is unfortunate, but anyway. Yeah, it's a nice thing, those conventions. And the biggest one being Blackpool, we talked about a few times on this podcast already. So I just went. I didn't plan to go, but I went because there is an episode which I thought was lost because of some technical issues, but it's fine. We recorded with Maddie when I was there, which was supposed to be about Wanda, the movie, but ended up being something quite different and fascinating, really. That will go out at some point here. And yeah, so he talked about Richard Turner in that episode, which is legally blind, and he is one of the most efficient and incredible card mechanics. So he's an analyst for the US playing card company. So he tests the quality of the paper, and it's just he's just incredible.
Wow,
what an amazing job!
Yes, and I've watched the trailer of his movie Dealt. That is in the theater festival circuit right now, and it's like he was told at a very young age, okay, because the blindness comes from the center, and it gradually came to actually be entirely blind. So he was told early, well, you won't do well, you will go blind quite quickly. And he said, yeah, okay, whatever. And he did all those incredible things. I think he's a certified pilot. He does like martial arts. Well, you see videos and pictures of him, because I heard about him like 10 years ago, because he did these training videos on how to cheat at cards, like dealing from the bottom or the center or the second.
Wow.
Which is quite interesting, because I'm not into card magic, but when it's mostly imbued with story, like what Maddie does, or when it's related to cheating, like what Richard Turner does and Paul does, that really fascinates me a great deal. So that's so I saw his name in the program for Blackpool, so I went.
Wow, that's
and I found Francis again there. So,
oh, did you?
Yes. So we spent some time. It was fun, and I spent too much money again. That's a bit annoying.
Did you buy any more magic memorabilia? Yeah, was that where your money went?
Not necessarily memorabilia, but effects. Yes.
You just went down the pub. It's like, fuck it.
But I had a reason this time, because I said, okay, I just had this terrible news from Adam that I would do some magic on the 100th episode, so I need to find some effects and that are suitable and related to actual movies. So yeah, I have some stuff in the yeah.
You don't have to do it, Yann, but it'd be quite cool if we could like throw that in.
I'm looking forward to that.
We'll throw in some skills. I mean, I might do some music stuff in Music Month, like put out some stuff.
Well, then there are the stuff I got were mostly visual, but there are also some radiophonic stuff that I can do, because we just decided before starting to record that the video experiment is still an experiment.
Yeah.
And so we won't be releasing concurrently.
Well, yeah.
We're experiment, but the video is not a thing as of just yet.
We'll explain more at the end with some other stuff that we're thinking about launching, but put a time code here for when we start talking about the movie. I had that idea the other day. Like, sometimes we just get raveled up and stuff, so we have a time code at what moment we start talking about the actual film. Yes. So, The Illusionist.
Yeah. So I know you love accents, Anouk, especially when when they are consistent, like Christophe Lambert or whatever. So what do you think about
hang on.
Edward Norton's?
I'll go now. It's a lovely day for a ride, isn't it? Gotta love a bit of Braveheart there.
I mean, you even said that mid-film. Adam was saying that...
I always do.
Army of Darkness. No.
No, Braveheart.
Braveheart, sorry. Braveheart. But there's a...
Bloody hell. But Mel Gibson. Highlander. That's
what I meant. The bad accent.
Yeah.
Actually... pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know where Eisenheim is supposed to be coming from, but he has an accent.
Vienna,
so Austria. Well, we'll get into that for some historical context. Not the plot, but one of the aspects of the plot is that the guy wants to overthrow to become emperor of Austria, and then he wants to seal the alliance with Hungary. So this is at the turn of the 1900s, because Austria-Hungary is a big player back in the day. Not anymore. Yeah, thanks to World War One.
Want to go into the plot then? Because we
sure.
haven't done that.
Sure. So the plot of The Illusionist features on a young magician who discovers the wonders of magic from a travelling magician, which is quite nice that they throw that in, because that would have been the case. Like, it would, like bards and stuff in the back in the day, you would just travel to a place and it's like, you're the local bard, so just a magician, and becomes fascinated with the whole idea of magic and illusions, and slowly creates his act. In the meantime, attracting the attention of the local princess, who becomes very infatuated with this guy, probably because he's just original and not like every other suitor that goes for princesses and princes. So the two of them strike up a friendship that develops. But lo and behold, as society wants, the two of them are ripped away from each other for years, leaving the young Edward Norton to appear as a professional magician and illusionist. And the film features his rise in coming into contact with his old flame once more.
Oh, forbidden love. Romeo and Juliet.
It's yes, against society's ties and boundaries. Royal against peasant.
Aladdin.
But the other way around.
Yeah.
No, not
the other way around.
Sorry.
Whoa. I love the structure of this, because it's felt a bit like I've rewatched I watched with my mum, but for me it was a rewatch, the Breaking Bad, and the structure of the first episode is fascinating, because when the filmmakers manage to pull it off, it's just beautiful. You know that the very first minutes actually is kind of the ending.
Yeah.
And the whole way through you get an idea. So you know from the start that Walter White is not dying in the first episode, because you see kind of the end at the start. Yeah. Here you also have all the elements of the whole movie in the first 10 minutes, and then it unravels until the end, until it goes back to the start. It's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't show you too much, and you are shocked. I do remember the last few scenes, I was a little bit confused as to what was going on, but I think that's just because I'd never seen anything like it. I don't think that meant that the film was bad. It was just like so new, like, so maybe confused is the wrong word, kind of, shocked, because I had no idea what was coming next. Starts with the chief inspector talking to the prince, like that scene is kind of when it starts becoming quite like otherworldly. Well,
it's the classic magic trick of deception. It's like, oh, this is what this is going to be about. Nope. No, it's not.
Nope.
Fooled you.
Not at all.
Yeah. They, just like Disney is very good at that, especially Lucasfilm, merchandise.
All right.
The locket is very nice.
It's very nice. It is. Especially because it's quite a weird locket. Like, it's not, pretty. I mean, it is, but it's like very kind of, it's almost like pagan, like gypsy-esque. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of homemade and rough hewn and all this stuff.
And there's a secret layer to it, sort of thing. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool indeed.
And like made by him, and it kind of goes back because the last scene, he's giving it back to her.
I do like, if we're going into the credit of this film, the whole ye olde feel to it. I've had throwbacks to Nosferatu a lot in this film. I don't know if this was actually the way we watched it, or if it's actually, I think it is the stylistic choice. It looks like a film from the early 1900s, right?
Oh, when it was made, you mean? Or the period of the film?
No, like how it's made, like, so it has like, like fades in, which are like encapsulates to a circle and then comes back out again, sort of like.
It was the same year, so 2006.
Yeah. So it feels like a film that it's paying homage to an early film.
Yeah, you have that kind of like
sepia tone sort of feel to it as well, like the color scheme and all that. That's what I mean.
Yeah. It's like, yes, sepia tone.
So it has that Nosferatu feel. Also, I was like, oh, that's the place they filmed Nosferatu. It's not, but it just looks like Orlok's castle. The white, obviously the palace.
The Mayerling Lodge.
So most of this film is filmed in the Czech Republic, even though it's supposed to be based in Austria and so on for Vienna. But yeah, mostly Czech Republic.
So I read something that talks about how it's based on the death of the prince and the duchess. It's like a murder / suicide that happened at that lodge.
Right.
Okay, so this is called the Mailing Incident. It's the series of events leading to the apparent murder-suicide of Rudolph, Crown Prince of Austria, and his lover, Baroness Mary Wetzera. So Rudolph's only son, Franz Joseph I of Austria, and Empress Elizabeth, he was the only son, right? So he was heir to the throne. So when he dies, basically it had to go to the Archduke, who then becomes assassinated and starts World War One.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
So his death just basically starts all of these many consequences and changes basically the course of history in the 19th century.
Well, yeah, because this is going back on what I just said, so just leave the first thing out I'll say here. Yeah, because the whole issue with Austria-Hungary was that it was a patchwork empire. Like, they just took more and more land. Like, the Balkan states, like, they were their own thing. They wanted to be their own. It was an independence thing. And, I don't know, empires don't like independent states, because if one state becomes independent, then all the other states will want to be independent. So that was one of the big things for Austria-Hungary. Yeah, World War One's got loads of reasons, like the naval battle between Britain and Germany. Germany, like, uprising as well, becoming a more powerful nation. The famous quote of Germany wants its place in the sun. That's either World War One or World War Two. I might have got that wrong, but I remember that from history.
No, it starts off with World War One. I mean, it's Germany's rise to a desire of power, kind of become like Britain was. But
oh yeah, because it's all to do with colonies.
Yes. Obviously, the assassination of the Archduke was like the start of something that just became crazy.
It was the kindling to all the other factors as well. Like, there were big things going on across the Europe. Like, it was a big whole thing, really.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, anyway, I obviously that's not between a magician and the Duchess, but it's kind of connected to that something that actually happened.
That's quite cool. I did think about World War One when he's like, I want to marry you because I want the Hungarian power. I'm like, oh right, so you're going for this. Okay, that's cool. I've never seen a movie like that. I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that deals with like that, the rise for power before World War One. I've seen films in World War One, obviously, but
I'd never seen a film that kind of showed maybe the obsession that royals had with magic, but also how much they wanted to like control it. Like, everything was about like, how did he do it? Like, I want the plans. I want to see how he did the orange tree and how he did the sword. And, you know, like, everything had to be like mechanical. How the prince was like, oh, you have something, you know, in your sleeve and let me check it out.
That did confuse me about this film. I'm like, why does Paul Giamatti's character investigate him the whole time?
He's probably
Is it?
I think he's working for the prince.
You think it's for the prince?
Yes.
Right, okay. Maybe I just missed that, because I was like, why is this guy so, like, obsessed? Even in the beginning, well, the beginning he explains, like, he does a bit of magic, so like, that's why he's curious, but then it builds to,
yeah, I think
when the prince gets involved. That makes sense. But in the beginning I was like, why is he so interested about why he's doing it? It's not like he's doing anything illegal.
I think he's both a fanboy and an employee of the prince.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he wants that power of being, you know, to become the chief inspector of police.
Yeah, and then it's revealed later on that he might get like mayorship or like become a envoy in the parliament.
Yeah, didn't you even say like baron or something?
Yeah, baron.
Like aristocrat.
Yeah.
I'll give you a title. So I think it's also like a personal obsession with magic and how it works. Like, I think he has this personal vendetta against this one person who basically just grows to become someone that like brings up ghosts in so many people's eyes. Which is probably quite terrifying back in those days, you know, because they actually believed it. Religion was so much more of a big thing in people's lives, like to bring people back from the dead.
I mean, we have that scene where it's obviously a church saying like, oh, we're going to overthrow the writings of science and Charles Darwin. We're going to throw all this out the window. Yay! which was quite a nice old little scene. I was like, oh, that's quite cute.
Yeah.
Because that would happen, because everyone gets obsessed when he becomes that illusionist that we see in the beginning of the film. To begin with, he's just a popular magician with, no, I mean, he still is an illusionist. I mean, he has the whole trick with the mirror and stuff like that, but yeah.
I think that was very well filmed as well. Like the red cloak and the mirror and just the way they did it. It like got to me.
It was more poetic than The Prestige.
Yes, I would say that, yeah. It almost felt semi-European in a way. It had elements, I'm like, I would see this in European cinema. There were bits of that in it, I felt, that were nice, because it was different to Prestige, which is very much an American film, or American studio film sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very on the surface, isn't it? The Prestige. It's a little bit like we know exactly, well, we don't, but we kind of know what is going on and what's real and what's not.
We're fed a narrative to go down until and there is enough clues there that we go, oh, that's what's going on. But yes, there is like there's a line that they want you to follow until they change, like, surprise, and then it becomes open. But
then this one, you don't actually know what's real and what's fake, I think. It kind of leaves that to you. Like, do you want to pretend that this man actually has like psychic powers or connection to the, the other world? Or do you want, that kind of is left to you, which is quite nice. Which again goes with it's poetic rather than this is what's going on.
But yeah, it's a love story.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Essentially.
A doomed love story.
Yes.
With a happy ending.
Yes, with a happy ending.
Spoiler.
Especially because it's all the ends are tied. There aren't any loose ends. Like the Crown Prince is dead, so he won't come and hunt them for the rest of their lives. And the policeman
lets him get away with it.
Yeah,
he hasn't actually done anything illegal.
Detective inspector or whatever.
Yeah. He's kind of laughing at it. Like he likes the fact that they get away, and it's this like poetic love story.
I just for me, I felt this was lacking in places. For me, it just felt some parts were just like, at the beginning I'm like, this is a bit long, but then it picked up, which had a nice pacing. So but it's strange that in a film you see story structure, and I don't know if that's a good thing. The fact that you can, this is the turning point, this is all this, so forth, and all that, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
It's quite, yeah. I mean, I think it might be one of those films where you have to watch it more than once, because I feel like there's quite a lot of things that are very different. So you don't really, so maybe you have to watch it again to like, I don't know, get away from the shock and then just to watch it as a film rather than, because there were moments where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this scene, and does this work? I don't know. Is it going too much I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it was like, oh, if it ends here, then it will be fine. But then it just carried on, and it was like, is it explaining it a bit too much? Does that take away from the magic of it? But then I'm also like, no, because if it stopped there, then you'll probably lose so much. It's just because it's quite a strange film, I think, maybe. That's how you feel.
I didn't know necessarily where it was going at points. Because I just didn't understand why the prince what was the goal after he got rid of rid of Edward Norton. Like, he's gone, let's just carry on with this coup. I mean, that comes in more involved when he kills off Jessica Biel's character, because obviously the relationship, but there are just like bits that I was like, the connection here is weak for me.
But isn't that the policeman's idea, that he goes to the Crown Prince and says, actually, now I'm thinking maybe you did kill her, and I have proof. I mean, it's always very clear that we know that it was the prince, and so does the policeman, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, he then goes and speaks to the prince because he's like, okay, actually, you're an arsehole, and I think that you should probably come to justice. Like, I can't leave this, like, because I know that you killed her, and actually, it's very clear that Edward Norton's character loves her.
I agree.
Loves Sophie.
I agree with that. What I mean is, I don't understand, like, the point where he goes, shut Edward Norton's character down. Shut him down. I'm done with this. Like, okay, cool. But why? Why do you, what? I don't understand.
Oh, because he's an egomaniac.
Well, I guess that too, but I was like, for the main...
Sociopath.
He undermines him. He basically says anyone who is supposed to be on the throne will be able to take this sword. And because the crown prince couldn't pick it up immediately, that completely shattered his ego.
Yeah, like when Paul about the Andy Nyman note, he said like, what notes? What are those? It's just like this guy, everything that is negative is just go crazy.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Paul is an intelligent man. This guy is just crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's literally just like, oh, I couldn't grandly take it, immediately into the air.
I guess.
So he like totally freaks out. But I also think it like undermines him, the crown prince, to the audience, because you're immediately like, well, this guy's a prick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of, and it's such a weakness. It's such a weak thing to do. To think, oh God, I couldn't pick the sword up immediately. I'm going to shut him down now. Like that's like such a
Bratty.
Yeah.
yeah. It's so childish so you kind of immediately you're vying for the lovers immediately after that.
Yeah. I just don't know. I feel like the film tries too hard to make him the antagonist straight away. I mean, obviously he's going to be the antagonist because he's keeping if it's a love story, so he's keeping our couple apart. That's an antagonist enough. But to like throw in this whole like, I just feel that maybe the relationship should have been established before he's in the movie that he goes like, right, I'd shut his show down, I don't care anymore. Like maybe that should have come before. Which I guess it does because he meets up with Jessica Biel's character in the carriage before that scene, but in the narrative structure, I'm like, maybe this would have worked better for me to go, right, so you're the main antagonist because you're keeping the couple apart, and also you're a childish brat. But the other way around, for me, I'm like, okay, oh, this is why, I see. Because he's never really involved with them being apart, because he only murders her because she's leaving him, as opposed to leaving him for another man.
Yes, it's not about him. It's not about the illusionist. It's about you're leaving me, and it's not about women. It's not even about I love her. It's about you are my connection to Hungary, and I need to marry you because I want the crown, the throne. And if you leave me, that's all gonna leave. Like he doesn't care about her or him, and that's great. I mean, maybe it's not the story that troubles you, it's just the way that it was told. Like, is this a director problem?
I don't even know, because I'm trying to figure out why it annoys me so much, in the sense that I just think it's a bit, I've seen better films.
Okay.
I think ultimately, the ultimate reason I'm having problems with The Illusionist is because there are things in it that are really good and really interesting and lovely and fantastic, but there are also big gaps in here. I'm going, this has been done. Not even it's been done better in other places, which it has. It's just, this is letting me down here, because you're not paying off all these other things that could work. Because it's very good to look at, and the story is interesting, but the way it's been told is just a bit
dull.
I don't feel there's any stakes, because Edward Norton's character's never really at risk in the film, is he? I mean, he's sure to get shot down, and he loses the girl. I think after she's murdered, the stakes become like more intense, because he's going to prove that he did it.
This also might be the character choice of Edward Norton, because he's a little bit deadpan the whole way through. So we don't actually get the change of his character between when she was alive to when after she was murdered. Do you know what I mean? Like the depression isn't actually that big a deal. Like I don't really see that much of a change in him after she's dead.
No.
And maybe that's why there are no stakes in your head.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily always need or want steaks. I mean, vegetarians, they're doing very well without those.
No, they used to do. You're right. I think I've worked out in my head why I've got the problem here. Right. Spoiler. Stop listening if you haven't seen the film, or if you don't care. Whatever. Everything in this film doesn't work because of the end. Because the audience is never let into the fact at any stage that she is still alive. It's just oh, by the way, she was never murdered. It was all a setup. I'm like, okay, fine. But there is no way the audience can work that out from what the film gives us.
Right. So you feel like
I feel cheated. I think I feel more cheated because I can't honestly sit down and tell you what happens in this film. And I don't think that's because it's like, in Trainspotting, how you can't describe the narrative because it's about an events that happen to people. I don't feel that for this film. I feel like there are bits here that just don't work for me, quite honestly.
Yep.
I did feel at the end when they reveal, like, oh, by the way, it was all, she's not dead. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Okay.
Like, it was nice. It was a nice, happy ending, sure, but we're never led there.
No, we're not.
We're never led to the fact that she's alive, and then it gets even more confusing. It's like, so how did you guys set this? Did you after they have sex, did they discuss, like, right, we're going to off the Archduke by not the Archduke, we're going to off the Prince by poisoning him so that he faints, and then I'm going to fake my own death so that we can run away together. I mean, that works, but we're never given that. We're never given anything in the film that gives an idea that this might be happening. So
there's like never any doubt of what's going on, so that it's literally just she's dead and then, oh no, she's not dead.
Yeah, no foreshadowing of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I hate to refer to the Prestige because, everyone would for this case, but the twist in Prestige.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We can, and we are given in that film little bits that might tell you that there's something coming. This isn't present in this film. There's no foreshadowing of what happens in the end. And I think that's my major issue. I think for the end to work for me, you need to set it up. There needs to be that inciting incident. There needs to be the little nuggets, the little jelly beans, as we would call them, to the fact that there's something coming, there's something a bit off. Bear in mind, this doesn't have to be obvious. It could be as simple, right, as there's a scene after they have sex together and she's like, I don't know, something like, she references, like, running away with him. I mean, they talk about running away together. Or do they? I don't even remember.
I think they do talk about running away, but it's never really, it seems like a pipe dream. You know what I mean? Like something that you would just say. And actually she's more negative about the whole idea. There's
only one time that the film can maybe get away with it. And it's in the beginning when she says to Edward Norton, make me disappear, which he does. But that isn't followed up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not brought back as like breadcrumbs.
It's not breadcrumbs. It's this, here's the one jelly bean. Oh, the bag's at the end, by the way.
It's maybe a thing of editing, because there's one thing I wanted to bring, but we haven't done as we have a podcast of actors talking about movies, is actually read the original scripts for movies we were talking about.
Okay.
Maybe it was there was more foreshadowing in the script. I have no idea.
Maybe.
Like it's, I just went to see Karen Gillan's directorial debut, and she wrote, directed, and starred in. And from what she wrote, at one point when they edited and everything was not working out, so they just completely deconstructed the movie and put post-its on the wall, and they just shambled everything. And now it's something which is still very chaotic, but which makes sense. And it's on 2 timelines, so it's kind of difficult to edit anyway. And it's beautiful, and it's strong, and it's kind of hard-hitting story about suicide.
Wow.
But yeah, maybe they edited there was, I don't know, an executive in the middle there say, why no, let's just keep the surprise for the end or whatever.
I mean, maybe it was if we could find out which one came first, Prestige or Illusionist.
Yeah, it's the same year, but in terms of development, there are obviously interesting stories on how.
Of course, yeah. What I mean is that there might have been in the editing process going, Prestige came out and it's all about like trying to figure something out, and they decided to take out the jelly beans to be a big twist at the end.
Right.
To be, yeah.
Well, put it this way, right? There's only one film where the twist comes so out of left field that it works, and that's the original Saw, which we'll talk about in the future. You know that twist at the end of Saw 1?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the same vein as what kind of happens here, but that's paid off because the thing that happens is present throughout the whole film. That thing that is in the room with them is there. You see it. It's there. You're aware of it. And when something happens, you go, oh, how would I have ever known that? But that works because it's in your eye, as opposed to being, oh, by the way, this happened. As a side note, you're tricked by going, it's right there. And then if you watch it again, maybe you'll see something.
And then it's more interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas in this film, it just happens. The twist just happens and we're like, oh, okay.
And that's something that sticks into your mind way more also, because from Saw I only remembered that
remember
moment.
the twist. And it's Saw's downfall in the end, because the first twist is so memorable, the rest of them have to have a twist. Even to when we review Jigsaw, the twist being that it's in the past. Now, that's the same vein here. You would never figure that out. And it's not as rewarding as being able to figure out that, she's not dead. Like, if I suppose there are little nuggets in Jigsaw. I don't remember the film super well.
Well, that's the twist here. Jigsaw, we don't remember anything. It's one of the most popular
episodes. The twist in Jigsaw was that when she talks about the blender trap, she's like, oh, this was never used. I'm like, right, there's the jelly bean. In the future, you go, right, that's the fact that we're in the past. That's the big one. In this film, it's not there enough for me to be like, oh, there we go. Oh, wow, she's alive. That's amazing. In this film, I'm like, what, she's alive?
Okay,
yeah. And then it ends. And then it's just Paul Giamatti laughing at a train station. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But,
I kind of understand, because his, with the whole, the camera going around and like him like laughing in different shots and the whole editing thing. I do understand that, because when I was watching it, I was like, I don't have that feeling of what he's going through, that like, my God, that has happened. Oh my God, that's crazy. I didn't have that feeling. And maybe that's what I couldn't put my finger on when I was talking before about how there's something wrong with this film and I don't know what it is. Like, it's good, but there's something wrong with it. And I think you've hit the nail on the head.
I think I've discovered the trick.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing, because I'm thinking about, well, Adam, what they give us in the film is also the guy that Edward Norton talks to at the train station happens to be the doctor when we find the body of Jessica Biel's character. When we find the body, you would never notice that either. That's a cheap one. That's a cheap one to go, oh, have you spotted this guy? He turns up later. We're never alluded to that.
No.
Things that are too obviously on the screen never super work. Because
if you didn't give him as many lines and he wasn't like fully there and like as a character that have then maybe it would be okay, because then you'd be like, oh, if I looked past this picture and looked just to the side, there's this. And then, when you watch it, you're like, see, if I just looked a little bit to the left, there's the doctor and he comes back later.
Well,
but because he's like an integral part to that scene, you're just like, he's just some guy.
It's not like the twin in Prestige. It's not like that at all. We're like, he's there. He's always there. And you're like, there's something off about this guy. And then it's revealed. It's like, of course it is. We're not giving this guy enough. And it's not like in Saw, where the guy is there the whole film. This guy is there for one scene, and then he's there for another scene. He's got two scenes, that's it.
I think that it's the breadcrumb thing. Because maybe it's about like, next time I see it, there's no way of going, see, because of that's because of what happens later, but because we were never given that. Now that we know the ending, why would I then go and see it again? Because I've already experienced the whole film.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's more annoying to me is that the story we're given with the whole trying to like prove that he did it is more interesting to me. I enjoyed that. That's the thing. The ending took away from my enjoyment of going, oh, he's going to catch the guy. He's going to prove that he murdered her. I was like, he never murdered her. He was set up. I'm like, oh, so now you've just made Edward Norton, you've made him the villain. You've taken away the heroic, I'm going to prove you no matter what, and I'm going to carry on in the face of the loss of a loved one. And you've created a guy who's frames admittedly a horrible person for a murder he didn't do. Like, he's dead at the end. He's not arrested. He kills himself because he's like, I can't go on. You know?
Oh yeah, but there is also a point that horrible person that there is a sentiment throughout the film that the prince has been doing what he wanted and killing women for a while.
Yeah.
That's true. That he murdered somebody else. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time. I mean, that's there. I missed that, to be honest.
I mean, you're not going to like him because, I mean, me being a woman, immediately didn't like him when he was like, can you even bear children? Do you have any use? I was just like, mate, don't even start on that shit. But then it also is like the probably age-old question of, if someone is a bad person, does that give you the right to then frame them for something they didn't do? Yeah. Probably not.
I
Just
agree.
because someone's a shit person doesn't mean that you should then put on something and make them worse.
Oh no, it's just like an artist who thinks terrible things if his work is great. You know?
Yeah.
The same kind of dynamic.
It's kind of disappointing because there are elements in this film that are really nice and different. This is just, that thing has overridden it for me. Like, it loses its feel. Like, yeah, I've got, this will be interesting when we get to the rating. This is going to be an interesting one.
I was just going to add that, do you think maybe it's because they were scared to have it too long? Like, the Prestige isn't scared of that.
Yeah, it goes its full runtime, you're
yeah,
right. This one's an hour and 50.
Yeah, so it's kind of good cinema time.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe that's why they decided to cut it down so that it was like, you know, you're not bored in the cinema or whatever, whereas in the Prestige it's like you have to give it your full attention and time?
Well, the Prestige has the benefit of having two antagonists because both of them are protagonists and both of them are antagonists to each other. Like, it has that double-edged feel. With this film, yes, it's a good versus evil sort of feel, but Edward Norton's character is not really anything.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, that's not a good thing to frame someone. One of the worst thing in life I consider to be injustice.
Yeah.
So it's. I didn't see it like this. I just didn't think about it. But you're entirely right. It's just Eisenham is just a terrible person.
Yeah, he's selfish. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could throw it as like, oh, I was a peasant, so I'm going to have my revenge on the rich. But you know, that's never there. That's like you have to clutch at it, going like, they wouldn't let me be with her, so I'm going to kill one of them so I can be. I'm like, but just run away together.
He never has a thing.
No,
he
doesn't.
never has a chip on his shoulder saying that, like, because I'm a peasant and she's a duchess, we can't be together. That's never said or talked about.
I mean, what in the intro bit did they like say that if we catch you again, we'll kill you? I don't think they did. You know, when there's like, if they see you with me again, they'll arrest you, I think was what she'll say. I'm like,
yes.
Arrest you?
Yeah.
I'm like, honestly, right, if they had arrested him, that then gives his character motivation to go, I want revenge, because something happened to him. But nothing does. He disappears for 15 years or something, and then just comes back, you know?
Yeah, there's no motive. Hence, there's no real stake. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I guess also you don't get the timeline. So like, how long have they not been together? Like, you don't ever get the fact that he misses her properly. There's one scene where I thought was really nice when he brings her out the smoke. I don't know what he does.
Phantasmagoria kind of stuff, like ethereal.
Yeah.
Kind of,
he like makes
ectoplasm.
Yeah. He has this like smoke figure of her, and there's a moment where they like nearly hold hands, and then she disappears, and then he kind of falls forward. I thought that was the only time that you saw how much they loved each other.
I mean, even in the carriage when they're seeing each other for the first time.
There's no heat.
There's no heat. There's also no heat in the scene where she comes on stage, where it's revealed that she does recognize him, but she's like, no. And there's no like emphasis of like, no, I don't. But it's like flirtatious.
Yeah, she says no.
Yeah, it's like,
it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, now we're picking holes, which is kind of sad because I did enjoy the film.
I mean, it's like, have you ever seen the video of Marina Abramovich?
No.
She's in, she does like, weird art, like live art, and she's been living and doing art with this guy for 20 years, and they lost touch for 40 years or something. And she was doing an living art installation where she would just sit in a chair and have people sitting in front of her.
I've seen this. I've seen the video of this. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. No, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but you don't get that in the movie.
No, you don't. Not at all. And he comes to this installation and they see each other for the first time in 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 20 years, but whatever. Yeah.
Powerful stuff. And because she's basically, she's like supposed to be silent, so she can't do or say anything.
That's right.
So they just have to stare at each other and they haven't, fuck me. Which you don't get in this film.
Yeah, the connection it's not really there.
The other thing I want to pick on before I get to the rating is I don't think there's enough characters. And usually this is like, too many characters dilute the story. Yeah, true. But if you don't have enough characters, some scenes just feel the same. I mean, at least 60% of this film, right, is Edward Norton in an office talking to Paul Giamatti. Well, that's a lot of the runtime. Well,
it would have been probably, one of the movies we talked about, you said it would have been the case. It would have been better as a play then.
Oh, no, it was Suburbicon would have been better as a series because it would have you could establish this world.
This one as a play, maybe, because you can, with less characters, you can go better.
Maybe. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, you can also,
not even that, just have less scenes with the office, but raise the stakes in them. Like, take out a couple of the middle ones, have like one, like the first meeting of like, oh, I'm a magician too, I'm quite interested, like a little bit of judgment. Then we get like the middle category where it's like, after Edward Norton, just before she's been murdered, like there's a whole, like maybe something in there.
Their sex scene.
Yeah.
Have a bit more of them talking. Do you know what? I have a feeling you might be right. I think the editors decided to cut a lot of the scene. And I think it must be because they wanted to make it like a non-epic. They wanted it to be like normal film time, like cinema time, 1 hour, 50 minutes. And so they cut down so many scenes and the heat and the stakes just aren't there anymore.
Yeah. At the beginning of the film, we get this based on a short story. I bet that short story has a lot more envelopment. Even if it's a short, I reckon it will have a bit more like building the relationship with them and then the antagonist against them. I mean, think about Count of Monte Cristo is the complete opposite. Count of Monte Cristo is enormous. Like, it's a thick ass book. And it's a lot of it is like setting up his life, and then, but that works because they take it all away. That works. In this film, there's no setup, and therefore you can't have a payoff to something that isn't set up.
I understand.
So if you edited The Illusionist, please get in touch. We'd like to have you on the show.
Yes.
To discuss things.
This is the thing I always feel kind of bad about, and this is why I like not being a review, because we're not saying like this is what happened. As a discussion, it's like this film has the potential to be a really good piece. Like, there are a lot there. A love story about a magician that gets on the wrong side of a prince. It's a pretty original topic.
So new.
It is that, but I think it's just handled in such a way that I can only imagine that it's studio interference, the time, because movies hate to be over 2 hours. If a movie's over 2 hours, people are like, I'm not sitting for 2 hours watching something. I think that might be the biggest downfall of this movie. You know, nowadays how we get people that want director's cut of superheroes movies? No, it's not even the case. I mean, there are bad decisions. I mean, there's the director's cut of Alien, which me and Anouk actually watched before that episode, which doesn't add anything more. It adds maybe, I think it's even less than the actual original film. But it does add one scene. It adds the scene where Ripley finds them downstairs, like the alien has cocooned them. Because I think the director's cut comes after Aliens. This is complete guess. I'm probably wrong, but that's what I imagine.
It was 20 years after the original release,
right?
So something. Yeah,
so that's good. So like they set up in Aliens that they're a hive creature. Like they lay eggs. They need to. Their primal instinct is to create something so that they can create more of them. So that's why I think that scene's added, because they obviously shot it way back. That there was like a scene where we see the victims have been taken, but now it's set up so they can be like made into other aliens, so the facehuggers can get them. Like,
yeah, you have the stakes as well of like some of them are alive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like what aliens do. The aliens.
Well, it's like Dallas.
The aliens do to you is worse than just killing you. They like impregnate you and then wrap you round their in a like a spider web thing, and then wait until it bursts out of you. So that's kind of a whole new way of like, giving birth, but in a really violent, brutal way.
And even that director's cut didn't take away the brutality. I mean, you can argue, and I've seen people do, that the director's cut takes away from the iconic scene of that film, which is in the ventilation shaft when Dallas is trying to get out and the alien just like is there and gets him. Because in the original version, we never see him again. He's dead. So we just think, oh my God, it killed him. But in the director's cut, he's like hanging up as this, like, he's not dead. Some people have argued that takes away because he's alive. But, it's 22. I don't think it does. I don't think it's needed. I don't think it doesn't make the film any less or better, but it's just an extra thing, which is cool. It's an alternative version.
Yeah, I think it adds to the stakes. I think it's like basically saying like, yeah, okay, they can kill you, but also they kill you in the most brutal way. And sometimes you're alive while this is going on. So like, it's not like John Hurt's character when the chest bursters come out.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't just like a one-off. Like this happens and this is what they do. And so I feel like when Ripley is in the last scene when she's nearly captured by the alien, that I think that image sticks with you, that like this could happen to you. An alien can come and wrap you in their stuff and impregnate you.
Yeah, and
that's fucked up.
It also comes in the countdown section where she has to get back to the ship. The countdown's going on and she finds them and she takes the time to like end them so that they don't have to suffer.
So that's
even more. So like shows more of Ripley, like she's human. She's not going to leave them to become more aliens. She's going to like
bring the cat.
Yeah, bring the cat. Jonesy. I think. You know what? Ultimately, there are films in the world that would be good and are good, but they don't stand up to analysis. I think Illusionist unfortunately falls into that category. I think honestly, if we hadn't been doing this podcast and we just watched The Illusionist, like it was on like television one day and we watched it, we would probably never think of the things we're thinking of, But because we're actors and we're filmmakers and we know these things, we see them. And I don't think I don't think it's right for us to say, let's just excuse it because it wasn't meant to be taken apart.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and you've got all those mood thingy. Like, I mean, I went to see once the party's just beginning, Karen Gillan's thing. I love her, but if the film was terrible, I would say it's terrible. It's not. It's great, but it's you've got mood. You've got people that you like to see on the screen, whatever they do, but still you can. I've seen. Apparently, she did a short before that. The short is not available, but I've seen another short she did, where she also wrote, stars, and directs. The short is terrible. Really, it's just like, what? I mean, in the idea of bringing something to the world with your art.
Yeah.
I don't feel it brought anything.
Right.
So standard.
That's yeah.
I just feel that I did when I was talking earlier. I did think of Yann's going. If we have the Cineworld card, obviously, but if we'd paid to see this, would we be annoyed? No, not necessarily. I think it would probably work. I think you would have a great time. But I think if you sat down and thought about it, it was, okay.
There are some really nice scenes in it, and I mean, even just the intensity of it, like 5 seconds. That sounds like it's a really bad film, but sometimes there are scenes where it's like there are like 5 seconds where it was like really intense and amazing, and then it kind of drops energy.
The fact it's poor because all the stuff with the magic and the illusions is great. I loved it. I loved that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The rest of the film is just like, okay.
The whole theme thing is just like with Egypt stuff. I will love it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I'm struggling to find where I'm standing. I'm standing in the good probably, but where in the good, I don't know.
Okay, so shall we jump?
Better than John Wick.
Shall we jump into the category? Shall I ask the question?
Yeah,
you can try.
So, Anouk, Yann, is The Illusionist good, bad, or just plain standard? Anouk?
I kind of agree with what Yann just said. It's good, but it's on the line. But it's better than John Wick, which was good, did we say?
Yeah, John Wick was good in the middle end of good, yes.
I thought that it was much better than John Wick, like much better.
Okay.
But I don't want to be like, it's good, boom, like stamped, you know?
Yeah.
It's.
Yann, do you want a second? Shall I do mine?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, you go.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure, but yeah, it's good. But it's floating in the good category. It's floating between sometimes middle, sometimes lower, sometimes a bit higher. It's floating in the good.
Okay.
Yep.
This is just plain standard. This is the first one for me that this is just plain standard.
Really?
Yeah. I feel really bad to say it because I really love the Nosferatu feel I got from it, and I really like the whole when Isolani comes out, you know, like when a scene ends, it ends like it fades in and fades out. I like that, but ultimately there are too many problems with the film that I was presented and watched for me to say it's good, and it isn't bad. That's the problem. That's the problem I'm having right now. There isn't enough wrong with this film for me to go, this is a bad film, don't ever watch it. This is a just plain standard. However, it's one of the standard ones that I would go, if it's on and you fancy watching a film, watch this. I wouldn't go out and look for it, and I wouldn't recommend it to somebody off of my viewing. However, if you're a magician and like seeing magic on film, there are parts of this film that are good. But for me, the payoff at the end, there are no stakes. I'm not set up to go anywhere. The villain isn't given a just reason. The main character is flawed. Too many of the scenes are not long enough. What I'm saying is, I reckon that this film at some point was great, but because of something, and what I have to judge what I watched, for me, this is a just plain standard.
I can understand that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, I honestly, it feels bad to say, because I know, we know as actors and filmmakers how difficult it is to make a project. But the saying is, too many cooks spoil the broth. I mean, something happened. Something happened in this that for me, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And for me, this is a just plain standard. But there will be films that we will talk about that are just plain standard, for other reasons. But this is a just plain standard in the sense of a Hollywood botched job. You know, I reckon in the hands of somebody with like style, for example, the guy that Godzilla 2014 is a just plain standard film, but he previously directed a movie which we got wrong before, which is Monsters, that doesn't star Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
You know, he did a really good film that was like arty and independent, but when Hollywood said, we'll get that guy to do a big thing, it just didn't work, because, you know, you can't give somebody that's talented and then go, right, we want you to make this, and take away his ability to make something. Like, you'll lose his flair. And for me, that's what's happened to The Illusionist.
Most of the time it doesn't work, yeah. It worked with Taika Waititi.
Yes, it did, very much so.
What We Do in the Shadows thing. And then, yeah, it worked with him.
Very
but
much so.
The guy who did, Kong, Skull Island.
Yes.
He did mostly Vimeo staff picks for years.
Yeah. There's a really good thing when he talks very openly about stuff that happened, and the people criticise for Kong Island, such as like the helicopters, how many helicopters are there? And he's like, you see them take off. He's like, I showed this, it's in the film. I'm like, I agree. But it's this.
I'm really glad when people talk about those difficulties, because I think we have this really sad thing of, it's entertainment. So everyone goes to see films and theater and stuff, and then they leave. And because it's so normalized, people think that they understand what goes on behind the scenes, and it's just not true.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much stuff that you need to understand before you can like really be like, do you know what? I fucking hate this film.
You know what? This is how I feel good about. I feel justified to say it's just plain standard, because there'd be people on this production team that I would love to talk to. Costume designers, the costumes are excellent.
Yeah.
The colorist and the colorists, absolutely, because there's a really interesting feel to it. Locations as well. Like it's filmed in Vienna. It's not a botched job of like, this is Vienna, you know. And even actually for early CGI, this is not bad. For 2000,
very good.
For 2006 CGI, this is great. This is really good. So there are loads of teams that nailed their job. I talked about this in Alien. Alien's a masterpiece because all the teams worked and it comes together and it's a huge thing. In this one, all the teams were doing great jobs, but somewhere in there, something happened. And I think it's in the post. I think there's a version out there of the Illusionist that is probably amazing, and would be a strong good for me.
Yeah. So
like prestige level, it would probably be prestige level, but something happened, and the film that's out there that you can watch as The Illusionist isn't there. But there are people on this team I'd be able to talk to and go, I really liked what you did on that. And I would be honest. I would rather be honest than say, yeah, this is good. I could easily say this is a good film that I wouldn't recommend, but I would rather be honest and say, look, this is what this is. And what we get, I'm sorry, but it's a just plain standard from me.
Cool. That was a very interesting round of ratings there.
Yeah.
Floating good standard.
Does hearing my opinion change anything in your heads, or do you stick with yours? I don't want to change yours at all. I'm just curious.
I think mine has gone down a little bit in my head, but I don't think it's standard yet, because I also don't want to put it in the same category as like something like, you know,
Emoji Movie.
Oh god, kill me now.
There's a thing.
You know, that's bad.
Yeah.
The thing is that Emoji Movie would be bad.
It's snowing, guys.
It's snowing again. Yeah,
properly snowing.
End of February and it's snowing. This is what happens. This is what happens in Scotland.
Nice Glaswegian weather.
I'm trying to think of a just plain standard film off the top of my head. Really.
I mean, Emoji for me.
No, it's worse than just plain. It's pure bad. It's just pure bad.
Evilly bad.
Evilly bad. Like just plain bad. That's what that is. That's just plain bad.
What about like
Temple of the Crystal Skull?
I haven't seen it.
It's
Indiana Jones 4, right?
Yeah, Indiana Jones 4.
Was it not Meet the Fuckers? There's another one.
Norbit's bad, just plain standard. You know, there are these films that are like super terrible. This is nowhere near that at all. This is probably, you know what, in the future we'll probably have a redemption series where we're like, do you want to save a film from your category? And this would probably be in contention to be redeemed. So yeah, so we'd be able to, you know, see. But at the moment for me, nah, I can't. And I would actually, do you know what? I would love to speak to Maddie actually and talk about The Illusionist and go, what did you see in it?
Well, the thing is, he actually saw The Prestige very late, so he had time to appreciate this one before.
I think that's the big issue for me. I think if I'd seen this before I'd seen Prestige, this would be a good. But seeing what The Prestige did with like setup and twist, it just doesn't. Not the same. It doesn't work.
It is very tough. I kind of understand what you're doing. It's very tough to see a film that has potential and also not that much added to it to make it good, you know?
No.
And I think that's what makes it sad, is that like there's not that much that you can do to this film to make it actually just a solid, awesome, know?
It's like when you slightly make something burnt, you can't go back.
Yeah.
Like I was going to use salt as a reference, like you've oversalted it, or like it's just undersalted. Like, you know, there's just bits that needs to be there. And
just 1 second, I'm trying a new thing. So it's actually snowing, and I'm live on Instagram. So
hi,
hello.
We're podcasting.
We're actually at the end of an episode.
Yes, we are. You can hear us say bye.
Just have a look at the nice Glaswegian weather there.
Yeah, it's pretty hefty.
It's just started as well.
Hang on, I'll pull that up for you.
Grazie.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Nice. All done. We're telling your followers that you've started a live video.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So should we?
Yes.
Well, Yann holds that camera.
Yeah,
should we wrap it up and
we'll
before we end it?
yeah. So we shall wrap up.
I'll do both at the same time. So, previously at the beginning of this episode, Yann briefly discussed the fact that we are not phasing out. We trial run the video feed, and we loved the fact that loads of people viewed it. At the moment, we need to figure out some stuff with filming, and we'll get back to it one day. But for now, we want to focus on providing more episodes and seeing more movies, because I feel like it takes an extreme amount of planning to do the video feed, and it also is a tough edit for like the professional Star Wars and the Brave episodes. Like Brave took me about 4 days to edit together. Star Wars not as long, because I was like, once I figured out multi-clip, it was fine. But Brave was a long episode with a guest. So for now, it's not feasibly possible for us to do it every episode. So instead of, like going, guys, it's almost like I don't want to rush to go and give us some money so that you can help me make these episodes. It's not what we're about. I would rather take the time to go back to audio, make the podcast better. And then when the time comes to say, maybe we should start a Patreon.
Yeah, and that will only be connected to, we want more equipment, or, and that's probably why it'll be better later on to bring the video in when we've got, things that like we can put a screen up and we can connect things to other screens, like we can actually do things that you guys can watch rather than just watching us podcasting, because I feel like at the moment that's what we're doing. We're videoing us podcasting, and it would be nice for you guys for you to have something to actually see,
Yeah, like the episodes like Filth and the ones that essentially, if Patreon, if Patreon's is always a strange topic, especially for podcasting, because you have to, I think we give a really good podcast. I'm proud of what we put out, and I would never say to support me for something I didn't think was of a good standard. That's funny. If we were a just plain standard podcast, I wouldn't ever consider the idea of Patreon. But reasonably for me as the video editor, I know Yann would help me as well. I have another job that I can't afford. I can't afford to just constantly video edit, because the thing is, if we did the video episode, I would want to do it how we did Star Wars and Brave, but I don't have the funds available to me to do that every episode for now. If that changes in the future, like I win the lottery or something, that'd be great. I can just go, you know what, screw it, I'll become a full-time video editor for the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've talked about, that if we do start a Patreon and we have people donating and whatever, like that will be up to our followers. But because our followers numbers keeps on increasing, like we're up to a point where we're nearly at
4,000.
Yeah. And so, and that's forever growing, which is so exciting. But it's also, we're kind of thinking about stuff like, that the money that, if that ever starts up, it will be going to the podcast. It will be going to equipment. It won't go into our own pockets. That's not why we're doing this. It will always be about podcasting equipment, content, booking stuff. So that's definitely something that we wanted to say, if that happens, in the next 6 months, which is definitely doable. I mean, because it's building that fast. It will only go to podcasting stuff. We'll never ask because we want to be I don't know, billionaires.
I mean, there might come a point where we make, we have that funds available that it probably will end up in personal life, but it's always podcast first. It's unreasonable to say you have YouTube, if at some point we get to the available for ads and stuff. Because realistically, if Patreon made enough money, I would absolutely stop Uber and just focus on the podcast.
Yeah, because that's something that we are all proud of. And
it's a job.
And the reason why we're bringing that up is because it's come to a point where we could actually ask for donations, especially because then it's up to them.
Yeah, of course.
Up to followers who can be yes, I'm willing to give. It could even be $1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Realistically, you say stuff it'll never be on personal things. I think the easier way to phrase that is, It'll never the quality of the podcast would only ever increase, as opposed to we just spend the money on ourselves and the podcast stay the same. That's not what we mean. Essentially what we mean is the podcast would grow, and if we had extra funds, we would be able to, help ourselves for other things, you know.
It's a business and we're not embezzling.
That's to figure out how legally Patreon works as well in the UK, what we'd have to do. But anyway, besides the point. That's why the video feed isn't happening, and that's why maybe at some point Patreon probably will happen this year. But for now, we can't give back enough with Patreon to justify it. I don't want to start a Patreon saying, give us like $20 and we'll like give you access to our store or something when we don't have a store. Like I would rather have a figured out strategy for you to get, like I don't want to say like give us 10 quid and we'll give you this and that. I'd rather have the thing like figured out, like if you give us this much, this is what we can give you back,
Yeah, and this is where it's going, and this is what we're going to do with this and this. Like there's so many things that we've kind of trying to figure out, and we're always, nearly every day we're like having meetings to like talk about what is the next step for us. So like that's the reason why we're thinking right now audio is probably better until we can sort out the kinks with videoing. And we have some really interesting ideas. It just might take a few months.
So anyway, that was The Illusionist.
So thank you again for listening. It's numbers again, I guess was just said, are getting not through the roof, but more than expected.
Yeah, they get
much more.
Big
when
numbers.
we expected a man and his dog to listen.
Yeah, crazy stuff, man.
Very exciting.
So we were
Adam,
Anouk,
and Yann. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.